Hi there, welcome to the latest episode of my 10-minute moan. And the topic of this 10-minute moan is to question whether the Justice Secretary in Holyrood, Angela Constance, lied to Holyrood today. Now, the reason for this question is that she was asked, in a quite a clever manner, to be honest with you, by the Tory party's Chris Hoy. And I'll just read out what he said, because it was quite clever the way he worded it, but her answer still dodged the question, and she made a claim that I think could potentially come back and haunt her. So what she was asked was, Lord Carlaway has become the latest senior figure to comment publicly on the length of time that one specific case is taken, namely Operation BRANCHFORM into the SNP finances. He said this week that instant justice would never be possible, but in relation to the BRANCHFORM probe, he added, I do not know where the hold-up is, whether it is with the police or the Crown Office or whatever. Now, the Minister will not comment on what that hold-up might be in a live police case. I will not seek to ask her to do so. But does she share the concern of a growing number of people that where high-profile cases take years to investigate, there is an increased risk of an internal or external factor undermining the investigation or jeopardising successful prosecutions, including the impact of the right to a fair trial in a reasonable time under Article 6 of the European Convention on Human Rights. So it was quite clever what he's done there, because he's mentioned BRANCHFORM, but he's quite clearly said, I'm not going to ask you to comment on that, and said, with large, any basically high profile case, there is these risks involved. So he's asked a sort of more general question, and she could have given a general answer. That would have been easy for her to do. But she refused to do that. And in her answer, she said, I've listened very carefully to Mr. Hoy's supplementary question, and despite some of his preface and words, I do fear that this is just another attempt to lure myself into commenting in live matters, when he knows fine well that no minister can comment on live matters. In terms of discussions regarding mandatory timescales in and around the charge and prosecution, I will just reiterate what I have already said. And this is a bit we need to listen to carefully. I have not had any discussions, and it's not something that I've given any current thought to. So, what is she talking about here? Is she talking about mandated timescales, which are talked about in this case? Which there isn't actually any, because I've spoken to a KC about this who has explained to me what Article 6 says, and it says a reasonable and fair timescale. So, a lot of people saying, well, if he has to be taken to court within a year or whatever, that's not actually the case. You could argue that 2 years was enough, because you want to give enough evidence, and you obviously want to give his side enough time to prepare a defence. So, a 2-year timescale could be argued is as suitable to the defence as the prosecution. So there is actually no time bar on this. However, his lawyers, his defence team, could argue at any point that it's went over a reasonable timescale. But that's open for debate, and it would be argued by the prosecution that they would benefit as much from any short delays. Obviously, if it's not 10 years, that's a whole different thing. But I think, talking to people with far more legal understanding than me, is 2 years would be all right. Anything under 2 years, there would be no problem. But when we start going over that, it could be, and he was only charged 6 months ago. It was certainly in the summer, wasn't it? So I don't see that being the problem. But I just think for her to say it's not something that she's had any discussions about or given any thought. So we're meant to expect that the person who's in charge of law and order in Scotland has not had any discussions or current thoughts into mandatory timescales in and around discharge and prosecution. That means if anything comes up in the future that she's said previously, and somebody finds a document, a recording or whatever, She's lied to the Parliament today. And I think it's a very dangerous place she's going. But to discuss BRANCHFORM while we're on topic, again, I've done some talking to people, again, are more qualified and experienced than me in the law and how it works. And I felt the police have come out again and said, look, we've nothing to do with this delay. We've done our part. We've arrested and charged the guy. We've sent up the charge sheet to the prosecution and fiscal services. And we're given all the evidence we have on another two parties, and we've said they can, dictate what they want us to do with this evidence going forward. So their job stopped when that paperwork was handed up. So they're saying it's no delay. And COPFS have already told us that it's still under investigation, which would appear in the face of it to be contradictory. But it's not, because Police Scotland are not the only body that COPFS rely on to investigate things and present evidence to them so they can make decisions about charging people and taking them to court. So to say one body saying, we've finished, we're not investigating anymore, and another body to say it's still under investigation, can actually be true. Both can be true. And that's not a bad thing for me, because being suggested, people like national crime agencies and stuff like that could have been brought in to say, look, can you have a look at this? Because we want more information on this. Could be anybody. Could be a vast number of bodies that the COPFS have at their disposal to gather evidence to present to them to allow them to make decisions about further and additional charges or not, and taking people already charged to court or not. So I know it's horrible, and everybody wants it put to bed, by the way. Even the nationalists want it, but they want everybody to say no criminality found. And then they've just got a problem to think, well, where's the £600,000 in, right? And there's obviously people on the other side of the argument that would love to see some of these people arrested, charged, and go to court. But I don't think it's the end of the world either way. Right now, I don't think it's a bad thing. But I would imagine the next 3 to 6 months will be quite important for this whole case and investigation. So there we go, a wee bit of an update. As Constance just maybe dug a wee grave for herself that she might fall into going forward by making such massive claims that she's had no discussions or thoughts about a certain part of law, which I think is a bit strange to accept or consider that the Justice Secretary, who's not just in the door, has no thoughts or discussions about these things like, mandatory timescales and stuff. I just find it completely bizarre to consider that. However, she said it. If she's wrong, it'll be on her. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you've not already done so, please hit the subscribe and the notification bell. Put your comments in the comment section below, please. I always enjoy reading them. And most importantly of all, though, as long as you're not the right type of person that takes £600,000 off people for a reason, and then the money isn't there soon after, not you, but
everyone else, have a great day. Cheerio, bye now.